Tamar, you had me thinking I was crazy too. I see, you know what? It felt like a surviving Tamar moment. They always talk about how, women is being mentally abused and physically abused. Men get mentally and physically abused too. Cause she just socked me in my jaw before. You feel me? And I'm sure Jeremy and who, or before, and got their head cracked. Okay? And them gas station pills, yeah, you gotta do something to stay up.
What if the biggest secrets tied to America's most famous sisterhood weren't hidden in confessionals, memoirs, or reality TV meltdowns, but buried inside marriages that quietly collapsed behind closed doors? Because tonight, whispers are turning into allegations. And the men who once stood closest to the family throne are suddenly speaking in ways they never dared before. Ex-husbands, former insiders, witnesses to arguments the cameras never caught, and rules no one was allowed to question. And according to what's allegedly leaking now, the truth is far darker than anyone imagined. For years, the public saw unity, loyalty, and unbreakable bonds. But behind that polished image, sources claim there was a pressure cooker environment where marriages didn't just fail, they were tested, controlled, and slowly suffocated. Private disagreements reportedly became family meetings. Boundaries were allegedly treated like betrayal. And love came second to loyalty. Or so the whispers say now. Screenshots are circulating. Audio clips are being dissected. Group chats that were never meant to see daylight are allegedly surfacing with messages that suggest manipulation, emotional warfare, and loyalty tests disguised as family values. And what's terrifying is how similar the stories sound. Different men, different years, same patterns, same warnings, same fallout. Social media is already spiraling. Fans are choosing sides. Old clips are going viral with new meaning. And celebrity insiders are reacting in real time, some defending the family, others quietly unfollowing, deleting posts, and saying more by saying nothing at all, because if even half of what's being whispered is true, then this isn't just relationship drama. It's a system. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The story doesn't start with shouting or slam doors. It starts with silence. The kind of silence that settles into a house after the cameras leave. After the glam fades, after everyone knows their role and plays it too well. According to what's now being whispered, the men who married into this world didn't walk into chaos. They walked into a system, a polished, smiling, tightly sealed system that looked like love from the outside and felt like pressure once the doors closed. This is a dramatized reconstruction based on insider-style accounts. But the emotional patterns described are what make people uneasy, because they feel too familiar to ignore. Multiple former husbands, separated by years and circumstances, describe the same initiation phase. At first, they were welcomed, celebrated, made to feel chosen. Family dinners felt ceremonial. Conversations felt warm but layered. There were rules no one wrote down, expectations no one explained, but everyone seemed to understand. Loyalty wasn't requested. It was assumed. And the first time a husband questioned something privately, the temperature allegedly shifted. Not violently, politely, concerned voices. Gentle warnings. That's just how we do things, according to these accounts. That phrase became the beginning of everything unraveling. One ex claims the first real crack came after a private. Arguments somehow became public knowledge within hours. He remembers sitting in a room surrounded by relatives who weren't supposed to know the details, listening to his own words repeated back to him with slight changes, framed as evidence that he was difficult. Other claims he was advised, calmly, that some issues weren't meant to be handled one-on-one. Marriage, he was told, existed inside the family, not beside it. That distinction mattered more than he realized at the time. Then there are the alleged messages. Screenshots that supposedly circulated briefly before disappearing. Group chats where jokes turned sharp and opinions hardened into strategy. In one leaked exchange, a husband is described as needing alignment before being invited back into family events. In another, a voice memo allegedly captures a moment where concern slips into control. Where love sounds conditional, where staying quiet is framed as maturity. None of it explodes. It erodes. As time passes, the men describe learning which topics were safe and which ones came with consequences. Boundaries became negotiations. Privacy became suspicious. One ex says every attempt to protect his marriage was interpreted as distancing from the group. He claims he started choosing peace over honesty, not because the issues were small, but because the cost of raising them felt overwhelming. That's how compliance allegedly became survival. Social media, meanwhile, told a different story. Smiling photos, family captions, unity packaged for public consumption. Fans praised the strength, the closeness, the ride-or-die loyalty. But according to insiders, that same closeness left no oxygen for a partner to breathe independently. One former husband describes feeling like a guest in his own relationship, always aware that decisions were being made in rooms he wasn't invited into. When tension escalated, the response wasn't screaming matches. It was group alignment. Multiple voices reinforcing one narrative. One ex recalls sitting quietly while his concerns were reframed as flaws. Too sensitive. Too controlling. Not understanding the culture. Over time, he says he stopped arguing back. Not because he agreed, but because resistance only made things worse. Silence kept things calm. Silence kept him included. Then come the recordings. Allegedly short clips, never released fully, but referenced enough to cause speculation. A heated exchange in a driveway. A trembling voice saying, "You're making me feel crazy." Another voice responding with practiced calm, insisting it's all love, all protection. Fans dissected these fragments online, debating tone, intention, context. The debate itself became fuel. When marriages finally cracked, the exits were quiet. No dramatic ultimatums, just exhaustion. One ex describes realizing he was preparing himself mentally before every interaction, rehearsing what not to say. Another says he noticed his personality shrinking, his opinions flattening, his world narrowing to avoid friction. Leaving wasn't a power move. It was a last resort. The aftermath, according to these accounts, was swift. Communication cut. Invitations stopped. Mutual connections cooled. Narratives formed without them. On social media, subtle shifts appeared. Unfollows, deleted photos. Captions rewritten. Fans noticed before statements were ever made. And when explanations did surface, they were clean, simplified, emotionally tidy. The husband became the obstacle. The family remained united. One former partner claims the most painful part wasn't public criticism. It was invisibility. Years of shared history reduced to a footnote. His side of the story never outright denied, just quietly excluded. Another claims he reached out once, hoping for closure, only to be met with silence so complete it felt intentional. The message was clear. Once you leave the structure, you no longer exist within it. Online, the chaos intensified. Old clips resurfaced with new captions. Fans reinterpreted jokes as warnings. Emotional moments once seen as vulnerability were reframed as manipulation. Celebrity acquaintances reacted carefully. Some defended the family loudly. Others said nothing at all, which spoke volumes. A few insiders allegedly messaged anonymously, saying they weren't surprised, saying they'd seen similar dynamics up close, saying they'd chosen distance for a reason. What makes this story unsettling isn't any single accusation. It's the consistency. Different men, different years, same emotional blueprint. They don't describe villains. They describe a hierarchy, a system where love and control blurred until they were indistinguishable, a system that rewarded agreement and punished resistance quietly, efficiently, without ever appearing cruel. One ex reflects that the family never told him what to do. They didn't have to. The environment did the work for them. Disapproval came in the form of concern. Pressure came wrapped in protection. By the time he recognized it, he'd already internalized the rules, and breaking them felt like betrayal. even when staying was costing him himself. The public is left wrestling with an uncomfortable question. When does closeness become control? When does loyalty stop being love and start being leverage? And why do systems like this thrive best when everyone involved believes they're acting out of care? The dramatized leaks suggest that the most powerful dynamics are the ones no one names out loud as more fragments surface. More voices speak in coded language. More reactions ripple across timelines. One thing becomes impossible to ignore. These stories don't sound like revenge. They sound like relief. Like people finally naming something they couldn't articulate while inside it. And that's what keeps this from fading away. Because if this pattern is real, even in spirit, then the image millions believed in isn't false. It's incomplete. Strength without space. Unity without boundaries. Love without room to breathe. Love without room to breathe. And the most dangerous secrets aren't hidden in scandals or affairs. They're hidden in systems everyone is taught to protect, and somewhere, just out of frame, there are still messages no one has seen, conversations no one has heard, and perspectives that haven't surfaced yet. Because if the men who already left are only now speaking, the question isn't what's been revealed. It's what's still being kept quiet. If you've made it this far, don't scroll. Don't click away. Because stories like this don't stay visible unless people push them into the light. Silence is how patterns survive, and attention is the one thing systems like this can't control. Right now, the conversation is happening whether you join it or not. The only question is whether your voice is part of it. This isn't just about celebrity marriages or famous families. It's about power, loyalty, and what happens when love and control start wearing the same face. And if any part of this felt familiar, unsettling, or hit closer to home than you expected, that's exactly why engagement matters. Algorithms bury uncomfortable conversations fast. The only way they stay alive is if viewers refuse to let them disappear. So if this story made you pause, hit like. That single click tells the system this conversation deserves to be seen. If you have an opinion, drop it in the comments, not to attack, not to worship, but to question. Real discussion lives there, and the comments are where patterns get exposed and perspectives collide. Read what others are saying. Respond. Challenge. Agree. Add context. That's where this story keeps evolving. And if you don't want to miss what comes next, subscribe now. Because follow-ups don't announce themselves. New leaks, reactions, and breakdowns surface without warning. And the people who are subscribed are the ones who see them first. Waiting means catching fragments later, after the narrative is already shaped without you. This isn't just content. It's a conversation that's still unfolding. Stay in it.